Hello, my lovely audience. I am so sorry that, well, the video that's gonna be, before this, so some fucking scam called my ass. I don't know why, okay? It was horrible timing. Anyways, I'm sorry. Anyways, let's get back to the what if, because this is something I want to get back into. I'm not gonna restart this whole thing just to do it. I'm just gonna continue with it, because why not? So, Deku is going to be, he is going to, he's going to scale the building. And how does he do it? How does he do it? Well, he finds out that Raka's quirk is zero gravity. So he just jumps and uses the building as, reference to climate. And he has a rocket on his back to keep them afloat. And yeah, they kind of get to where the window is, and these rubber rounds, they're more like real bullets. The reason why I say this is because it's also suppressed, but at the same time, they can break glass. So what does he do? Glass just completely destroyed. And then he just goes inside. And immediately, Ida's not prepared to fight both of them. And the teamwork that was needed to do this was impressive. And what ends up happening here is this. Deku completely goes against Ida, and Araka would be trying to assist Deku by trying to stay back and see if there's any weak points. And try and throw stuff at him, and he can dodge away from it. And for what ends up happening here is this. Deku is firing a bunch of rubber rounds into Ida's armor that definitely shift his trajectory a bit and actually pushes him around. And for what ends up happening here is this. Deku, he gets close to Ida. And Ida thinking that because Deku's using a gun, he must not be great at close quarters combat. So what ends up happening here is this. All Might would be intrigued to see that Ida just got his ass kicked. As in, Deku grabs his leg that he's going to try and kick him with it, and immediately grabs him and throws him on the ground, putting his leg on his head to keep him pinned, and then twists his leg, dislocating it, twisting it and pulling upwards, dislocating it, and also completely fucking him over. He then takes out his gun and shoots several rounds into Ida's back to keep him down. And that completely tears Ida apart. He is on the ground in pain. And right before Araka is about to actually, touch the bomb, she is hit with an explosion, sending her flying. And what does he do? What does Deku do? He does this. He goes to charge Bakugo, who then remembers what happened last time, so he doesn't put too much charge in this one, but with the gloves it does put the same about a lot of charge into it. So he blows up his hand thinking, shit, did I get him? And also, shit, did I hurt him? Because what ends up happening here is this. Deku dodged the attack and then punches him into the ribs really hard, cracking them. Actually, I would say bruising them, because why not? And then starts beating down on Bakugo, completely blocking his attacks and completely just beating down on him. Mind you, he's got only one eye. And for what ends up happening next is this. He grabs a hold of him and then puts a knife to his neck saying, stop. And Bakugo stops immediately, feeling the cold steel blade against his throat, paralyzed in fear. And Deku getting in his low voice, getting real close to his ear to tell him if he doesn't stop right now, if he doesn't apologize right now, there's going to be some problems. And he pushes the blade against his throat. And Bakugo immediately says, I'm sorry about everything, about the eye. And then he tells him, good boy. And then bashes him down into into the ground. Mind you, he never got an apology from Bakugo, so this is why he wanted it. But yeah, he basically completely destroyed Bakugo. Yeah, and made him his bitch. So there's that. Alright, so because the video stopped on that last one, I am going to have to do a little bit more. So for the, I'm going to say for the what ends up happening here is this. Deku, oh boy, he has gotten a lot of praise recently because, let's put it this way, his like fighting skills and all that are insane. Also, during the physical exam, people definitely saw his body. They saw how muscular he was and how ripped he was. Kirishima looking at him like, manly as fuck, bro. Or whatever. Anyways. For what ends up happening next is... What is going to happen? Let's see. Didn't really think I'd get this far. For the USJ, I'm going to say that Deku is preparing. He's ready. And also his hero suit also has a bandana. They don't know why he wanted a bandana, but yeah, he gets a bandana. And for what ends up happening next is this. When Deku goes to the USJ, he is going to fight the villains with Aizawa. And Zero would also be intrigued by that Deku has no quirk, because it's almost insane. Like, why come here if you have no quirk? You're just going to get hurt, is what she thinks. But not only does he prove to be very useful for Aizawa when he's fighting these villains, but their fighting style, he matches his speed. And Aizawa would be kind of intrigued that Deku is moving at such an insane, alarming rate of speed when he's fighting these guys. In fact, when he actually fights these guys, he, how do I put it? Deku would be shooting them. He would be using his knife to, to kind of distract them and just punch them in the face. He'd be completely disarming them, just all these things. And honestly, it's terrifying how fast he's moving. In fact, I would say that Shigaraki sends the Nomu on Deku. And the rest of the students, yeah, they weren't separated, so they're still in a group. And the Nomu goes after Deku, who immediately he shoots it at with rubber bullets, but it doesn't do anything. So he thinks it's some type of armor-type quirk. So he thinks that the best thing is, if it's not going to take blunt force damage, it's going to have to take slashing damage. So what does he do? He cuts it up. He pretty much butchers it. Anyways, he, gets grabbed by the Nomu, and immediately Deku stabs into it. And it roars out a unhuman scream. And I'm going to change whatever it sounded like, and I'm just going to say it makes a crackling sound. And immediately, it really hurt because he hit like right in the nerve. For what ends up happening next is this. This thing is very big, and also Aizawa would try to disable its quirk, but fails because this thing's got a lot of quirks. And what ends up happening next is this. He gets punched into, he's going to get punched into the stairs, completely destroying him and everything. Actually, no, I'm going to say that he's going to be punched into the ground and about to be crushed by the Nomu, who Deku comes in and slashes into the Nomu's head, cutting into its brain and completely just digging into it. And because Aizawa realized that, I would say he would come to the realization that this thing cannot be human because it doesn't resemble a human. It follows this guy's commands way too much, so it can't be human. So as Deku do, he just cuts into it. He realizes the same thing, and basically, he kills it. And then he shows no remorse when he kills it. He stabs into it one more time to make sure it's dead. Its body twitching. And what ends up happening next is this. Basically, all the villains are in fear because a man is covered in blood walking towards them with a knife out, and he takes a stance ready to fight. And his hands are all bloody, everything is bloody. His entire wetsuit is completely covered in blood. He is ready to fight. He looks like a demon, is what they say. And then one after another, villains come up to try and fight him. He just punches them, using the back part of the blade, the dull part, to just pull them closer to him, to just bash into them, destroying their bodies, completely just annihilating them. Yes, he gets hit a few times, but he gets back up, and he screams in anger, ripping apart all their will to actually survive. And that's when Shigaraki and Hirokiri get the fuck out of there. They retreat, leaving them behind. And that's when Deku goes over to where Aizawa is, and he pulls out his gun, and he aims it at all the villains, who just back up. And they back up. And they decide to go for the other, other students, because this guy is terrifying. And they're never going to survive against him. So, what ends up happening here is this. Deku starts treating Aizawa's wounds and realizes that he's pretty messed up internally, but at the same time more messed up when it comes down to his actual body. It's not bruised, it's more cut up than anything else because other villains he was paying too much attention to Deku. So he patches him up and stitches him up, and immediately a villain tries to, stop him. And Deku just kicks him in his leg and pretty much breaks it, making it bend the other way. Making his leg bend the other way, having him on the ground, and then he kicks him again, knocking him out. And I'm going to say that Aizawa would say this to him. You get double points for this exam. I would say that he says to him, you're getting an A on your next test I give you. And what ends up happening here is this. Deku destroyed a majority of the villains. To the point when they actually get over up to the stairs, they realize maybe they should have gone after the guy who had the injured guy. Maybe they could have taken him. Maybe. Just maybe. And what ends up happening here is this. Aizawa is pretty patched up, and he is laid on the ground to rest and in a much better position. In fact, I want to say that for what ends up happening when All Might comes, because he's going to come like right when their students are having a hard time, they're being suppressed by these villains, and immediately starts destroying these villains and completely crushing them. And I'm going to say that for what ends up happening here is this. After the whole thing is over, they would realize that this thing is not human. That thing that he killed was not human. And whatever it was meant to kill All Might. Its abilities were matching that of what would go against All Might's abilities. And the whole entire thing that was going on was just insane. So yeah, Deku, a guy quirkless, killed it. And they're all looking at him shocked, really. Because someone quirkless took down something that big and then saved a teacher who had much more experience and much more combat training and so on. And he was able to protect him and patch him up. Whole time, they're wondering, how does he know how to do all this? A lot of questions are going through the teacher's minds. Like, is he really a student? Is he really a kid? Like, what is going on? And they also wonder why he has an eye patch, because that's not normal. And so on. So yeah, I'm going to leave it off here. Have a good day and a good night. Peace out.